Thank you, Madam Chair. Attorney General Bondi, at your confirmation hearing in January, made a clear commitment you would not politicize your position. We are here today at your first oversight hearing 9 months into your tenure, at a time when hundreds of career prosecutors have quit because they were required to take unethical actions at odds with that promise, or feared that they would have to take such actions if they remained on the job. When over 1,000 former federal prosecutors have sounded the alarm about the unprecedented degree to which the powers of DOJ are being abused to go after the president's enemies. I approach this hearing with a heavy heart. As a former federal prosecutor myself, I served in a department that, whether it was under a Democratic or Republican president, would never use the office to go after the president's enemies or to hide the corruption of his friends. But today, the Justice Department has been used to cover up the possible corruption of the mayor of New York, or of a high-level administration official taking $50,000 reportedly in cash in a bag, or a child sex predator who befriended the president and some of his cabinet members. And instead of preventing partisan weaponization, your department has engaged in a brazenly political prosecution at the president's explicit direction. The department has become President Trump's personal sword and shield to go after his ever-growing list of political enemies and to protect himself, his allies, and associates. My questions therefore focus on these two themes: hiding the corrupt acts of his friends and prioritizing the political prosecution.
What you just witnessed was the opening salvo in one of the most contentious oversight hearings the Senate Judiciary Committee has seen in recent memory. Senator Adam Schiff, a former federal prosecutor himself, came prepared with serious allegations and pointed questions. But as we'll see throughout this hearing, getting answers proved to be an entirely different challenge. Let's break down what happened here, because this exchange reveals something far deeper than just partisan disagreement. This is about the fundamental role of the Justice Department in American democracy. Schiff focused immediately on what he called shocking allegations of bribery and pay to play. According to reports from 4 major media outlets, Tom Homan, the president's top deportation official, allegedly took $50,000 in cash in a bag from undercover FBI agents back in September 2024. The allegations suggest Homan indicated he would facilitate securing contracts in exchange for money once he was in office. Now, here's where it gets interesting. What do you think should happen when such serious allegations emerge? Typically, you'd expect a thorough investigation, regardless of political affiliation. But according to Schiff, this investigation was quietly shut down once the Trump administration took office. When Schiff asked Attorney General Bondi directly whether Homan took the money, watch what happened. Bondi deflected, stating she wasn't in office when the incident occurred. But Schiff wasn't asking about what she did then. He was asking what she knows now. Do you think that distinction matters? What became clear throughout this hearing was a consistent pattern. Schiff asked direct questions. Bondi either deflected to others, claimed lack of knowledge, or turned the question into an attack on Schiff himself. When pressed about whether career ethics lawyers were consulted regarding the president receiving a $400 million gift from Qatar, a question directly related to a promise Bondi made during her confirmation hearing, she refused to answer. When asked about who flagged Trump's name in the Epstein documents, she refused to answer. When asked if Homan paid taxes on the alleged $50,000, she refused to answer. Think about this for a moment. This is an oversight hearing. The entire purpose is for Congress to exercise its constitutional duty to oversee the executive branch. What happens to that system when the person being overseen simply refuses to answer the questions? Here's another crucial detail. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt explicitly told reporters, Mr. Homan never took the $50,000 that you're referring to, so you should get your facts straight. That's a categorical denial. Not, we can't comment on an ongoing investigation, not, the matter was reviewed and closed, but a flat statement that he never took the money. So Schiff asked Bondi a simple question. Was that statement true? Did Homan take the money or not? Instead of answering, Bondi praised Carolyn Levitt as one of the most trustworthy human beings I know. But that wasn't the question, was it? The question was about a factual matter that should have a factual answer.
Perhaps most telling was the exchange about potential video or audio evidence. If FBI agents conducted an undercover operation and Hostman allegedly took $50,000 in cash, there would almost certainly be recordings. Senator Welch from Vermont asked whether Bondi would support providing that tape to the committee. Schiff followed up on that question. Bondi's response? You can talk to Director Patel about that. But, as Schiff pointed out, she's the Attorney General. This would ultimately be her decision, not the FBI director's alone. When he pressed her on whether she would support the request, she pivoted to asking whether Schiff would apologize to Donald Trump. What do you make of that response?
Throughout the hearing, Bondi repeatedly turned questions into personal attacks. She brought up Schiff's censure by Congress, called his questions slander, and accused him of attacking good people. But here's the question we need to ask. Are pointed oversight questions the same as personal attacks? Schiff is asking about specific allegations that have been reported by multiple major media outlets. He's asking about the status of investigations. He's asking whether ethical guidelines were followed. These are exactly the kinds of questions Congress is supposed to ask. When those questions are met with accusations of slander rather than substantive answers, what does that tell us? One of Schiff's most serious points was about the hundreds of career prosecutors who have left the Justice Department. According to his statement, over 1,000 former federal prosecutors have signed statements warning about the unprecedented politicization of the department. 282 former career officials raised alarms about being forced to leave, either voluntarily or involuntarily. These aren't political appointees who serve at the pleasure of the president. These are career professionals who have served under both Democratic and Republican administrations. When that many experienced prosecutors sound the alarm, shouldn't we pay attention? What do you think drives that many professionals to walk away from careers they've dedicated their lives to? Schiff also asked whether career prosecutors found insufficient evidence to charge James Comey, the former FBI director. This matters because if career prosecutors, the non-political professionals, determined there wasn't sufficient evidence, but charges were brought anyway, that would suggest political motivation rather than legal merit. Bondi didn't answer that question either. She also wouldn't confirm whether she discussed indicting Comey with the president. Think about what that silence might mean. In a properly functioning Justice Department, prosecutorial decisions should be made based on evidence and law, not presidential preferences. The fact that she wouldn't even answer whether such conversations occurred is itself revealing, isn't it? Toward the end of his questioning, Schiff read through a list of questions Bondi had refused to answer. It's worth considering each one. She wouldn't say if she consulted ethics lawyers about the Qatar gift. She wouldn't say who flagged Trump's name in Epstein documents. She wouldn't say if Homan kept the bribe money. She wouldn't say if Homan paid taxes on it. She wouldn't say if career prosecutors opposed the Comey charges. She wouldn't explain the legal basis for military strikes in the Caribbean. She wouldn't say if she discussed the Comey indictment with the president. She wouldn't say if she approved firing antitrust lawyers who disagreed with a merger decision. She wouldn't say if she supports a restoration fund for January 6th defendants. She wouldn't say if career prosecutors were fired simply for working on January 6th investigations. She wouldn't even confirm that government officials must abide by court orders. That's not just one or two sensitive questions. That's a systematic refusal to provide oversight. Do you think that's acceptable in a democracy? Here's what this really comes down to. The Justice Department is supposed to be independent, not independent from the law, but independent from political pressure. Prosecutors are supposed to make decisions based on evidence and legal standards, not based on whether someone is a political ally or enemy of the president. When Schiff says the department has become the president's personal sword and shield, he's articulating a fundamental concern about the rule of law. If the Justice Department protects the president's allies and prosecutes his enemies based on political considerations rather than legal merit, then we don't really have equal justice under law, do we? To be fair, Bondi and her defenders would argue that the previous administration also politicized the Justice Department. They would point to investigations of Trump and his associates as evidence of political prosecution. They would argue that they're cleaning house of prosecutors who were themselves politically motivated. But here's the critical question. Even if you believe previous administrations politicized the department, does that justify doing the same thing? Or does it make it even more important to restore genuine independence and professionalism? What do you think? Let's come back to the central question that started this hearing. Did Tom Homan take $50,000 in cash from undercover FBI agents? If he did, why wasn't he charged? If he didn't, why won't the Justice Department simply say so clearly? And if there's video or audio evidence of this interaction, why shouldn't Congress and the American people be able to see it? These aren't gotcha questions. These are basic accountability questions. When a high-ranking government official is accused of taking a bribe, the public deserves to know what actually happened. The fact that we still don't have clear answers after this hearing should concern all of us, regardless of political affiliation. What we witnessed in this hearing represents a broader crisis in congressional oversight. When the executive branch can simply refuse to answer questions from Congress, the constitutional system of checks and balances breaks down. Congress has the power of oversight precisely because the founders understood that power must be checked by accountability. If an attorney general can appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee and refuse to answer basic questions about Justice Department operations, investigations, and decision-making, then what's the point of oversight hearings? They become mere theater rather than genuine accountability. The implications of this hearing extend far beyond this one confrontation between Schiff and Bondi. If this becomes the new normal, if oversight questions are routinely met with deflection, personal attacks, and refusal to answer, then we're witnessing a fundamental shift in how American government operates. The question before us isn't really about Adam Schiff or Pam Bondi as individuals. It's about whether our system of government can function when one branch refuses to be accountable to another. It's about whether the Justice Department can maintain public trust when it won't answer basic questions about its operations. So here's what I want you to consider. What standard should we hold our Justice Department to? Should political affiliation matter more than professional judgment? Should the Attorney General be able to refuse to answer oversight questions? Should investigations be opened or closed based on political considerations? These aren't abstract questions. They affect real people and real justice. They determine whether we have a government of laws or a government of political convenience. The Senate hearing we've examined today isn't just political theater. It's a window into fundamental questions about American democracy. The answers we demand, or fail to demand, will shape the kind of country we live in. What do you think? Should Congress have gotten answers to these questions? Does the pattern of non-answers concern you? Let me know in the comments below, and let's have a real conversation about accountability, justice, and the rule of law.